Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing Sega Ages Volume 1 for the Sega Saturn. Now, look, I just want to say something quickly. I think I've stumbled onto some Illuminati shit. Like, seriously, I don't know if the government knows about this, but look, Sega, right, backwards is ages. Has anyone else, like, figured this out? Blows my mind. Up until now, I've considered anything Sega Ages on the Saturn to be a budget throwaway title, usually lackluster in presentation and everything else is done in a complete slapdash manner. This is my third review for the Sega Ages compilations, the first two being Columns Arcade Collection and the Space Invaders compilation, both of which I could barely muster a mostly frozen and slightly lukewarm in spots reception. There has been nothing to really convince me otherwise, that is, until now. This one-player compilation comprises of three titles, Afterburner 2, Space Harrier, and Outrun. I don't have any particular nostalgia, so what I say can be taken with that in mind. Each game was released in 1987, 1985 and 1986 respectively. Since they're all arcade ports, there's no particular story, but I was in the process of making up this incredibly racist story, unintentional mind you, but then I realised I had no solid foundation for it. Sega actually started in the US before moving their operations to Japan. Furthermore, this compilation didn't get a Japanese release. In Japan, each game got its own release, but in both the PAL and US regions, we got this instead, which is a much better situation. So, it's incredibly wrong to call our protagonist Sushi Tits. All you need to know is that it featured a Macklemore reference due to a lazy half-written joke that I didn't quite understand, and perhaps the only pop reference I know in the last 15 years since I'm so wildly out of touch with pop culture. But it did also involve the god Nemesis for being a selfish arsehole, something about Ares, something about 2000 doubloons, and something at the end which loosely ties all three stories together in an extremely convenient manner. So, is this compilation worth the time and effort? I couldn't really tell you exactly what I'm looking for. All you need to know is that you can do better than a DVD menu made in Windows DVD Maker. Luckily for us, presentation only counts for 1/5 of this review, and the weighting is not a game changer or breaker. Maybe something a little more than a gameplay picture in the game's logo. Some animation in there, a font which is a little more exciting, I don't know. But once you got past the initial screen and into the game, each game menu uniformly looks really great and ties in very well with each other, both in sense of style and presentation in general. The in-game presentation is 100% 80s arcade. I actually find the layout pretty simplistic, for better or for worse. It looks good and there's not much on screen, but that's not the focus. Gameplay and graphics are. And don't get me wrong either, at no point do I feel that anything is really out of place here. All of it works in really, really well. It feels like Sega really did some research on what works before pumping out games like this. It's certainly the best of the three Sega Ages compilations, which you can take with a grain of salt. When I speak about graphics, I think it's safe to assume you're not going to get those perfect 3D graphics you would expect to see in 1996. But what you do get instead is ports of arcade titles which are as close to the arcade as you're going to get on home consoles for this era. And of course, being Sega arcade games, you're not going to get them anywhere else. This is not only first class, but it is really, really awesome across the board. I didn't notice any major glitching, bright wonderful colours which is really lacking in a lot of today's mainstream gaming, and looks like not a single frame is missing. Even though initially I didn't like Space Harrier's camera angle or perspective as it was hard to judge how far or close something was, it was something I got used to. Sound-wise, it all sounds really good. Soundtrack, sound effects, not a single sound is out of place. The soundtracks are memorable on top of it, which is something that's going to stick with me for a very long time. When someone says to me, "Do you remember that music from Outrun?" I'm going to reply, "Of course I do. It's that, Yanni-inspired clown metal, right?" I could go through each game, but ultimately you're going to hear the same thing on all three. Controls better than Emotional Guilt, and as close to the arcade as you could possibly imagine. It also supports the 3D controller on all games, which helped Afterburner 2 and Space Harrier, but I didn't notice a big difference on Outrun. The only thing worthy of note is that Outrun has the ability to have multiple paths to drive, which is nice. and Space Harrier's level 1 boss was far harder than level 2 and 3's end boss. So, what the hell? Because they're old arcade games, you have a twofer on difficulty. The arcade portion wants your money, and the fact that they're old games adds to it. Meaning, you will be replaying these games after short periods of playing, so in a way, it isn't something you're going to play for long periods of time. But it is something that I could go back to weekly, fortnightly, monthly, daily, nightly, and ever so rightly. They're so close to the originals, it's crazy. It's difficult, plus insane amounts of fun, even if they are only one player. If I could make one complaint though, it's that I would have loved more games. Would I recommend this package? Well, I was harsh on the other two compilations, which also resulted in people telling me I've missed the point and that they were budget titles and accurate ports. Well, the accuracy is still here, sure. But these games are just more fun to play and would appeal to a much larger audience, which is why I'm going to recommend this package over others. They cleverly selected 3 timeless classics and did an amazing job in porting them across. Space Invaders wasn't particularly exciting no matter how true to the originals they were, and Columns was only slightly more exciting than that. Japan got all 3 games in this package released separately if you're only interested in one game, but the amount you would pay in just that one game doesn't really make it worth it. I don't know if it was greed or licensing that was the issue, but this package in the PAL territory was not expensive in the slightest, which only adds to the recommendation. But if you're in the US or hellbent on buying US only Saturn titles and you'd like a US copy of this compilation, not only is it hard to come across, but it was also released by Working Designs. Very little is different about the package, but the price difference is one of the largest I've seen alongside Burning Rangers and Saturn Bomberman. In the PAL region, you're looking at about 25 to 30 bucks, but in the States, you're looking at about 100, all because Working Designs had a hand in it.